From Washington, D.C., this is Middle East Focus.
My name is Lyne Sneige, and I'm the director of the Arts and Culture Center at the Middle East Institute. To keep you and everyone safe during this crisis, MEI's Arts and Culture Center has suspended its face-to-face meetings and activities, and our gallery is temporarily closed for visitors. However, we are making our presence online stronger, and we are planning a rich program of podcasts such as this one, as well as virtual panel conversations over the next several weeks to keep bringing you the best of the arts of the Middle East amidst a crisis that is reshaping how we are thinking about the future and what is the role of the arts within this important conversation. Also, follow us on Twitter at MEI Arts Culture. Joining us today to discuss the impact of the coronavirus crisis on the arts sector in the Middle East is Adila Laidi-Hania, the Director General of the Palestinian Museum in Ramallah. Dr. Laidi-Hania is also a writer and an academic on modern Arab intellectual history as well as cultural spaces. Also with us to bring a gallery perspective is Saleh Barakat, founder and owner of two of Beirut's top galleries, the Agial Gallery and Saleh Barakat Gallery. Saleh represents top artists in Lebanon and across the Middle East and has a deep understanding of the region's art scene. And for an artist perspective, we are joined by Khaled Barakeh, artist and cultural activist from Syria based in Berlin. Khaled's work revolves around power structures in the context of identity, culture, and history. He is also founder of the non-profit organization Co-Culture, founded in 2017 as a response to the challenges faced by displaced cultural producers in the Middle East. Welcome to you all, and thank you for joining me today from Ramallah, Beirut, and Berlin to discuss how this health crisis, which is affecting all aspects of life, is also impacting the arts and culture sector in the Middle East. I want to turn to you, Adila, first. You are at the helm of a big and remarkable institution, which is the Palestinian Museum in Bir Zayt, just north of Ramallah. The museum plays an important role and provides much needed and significant services to the Palestinian community, which I have to say has been through several lockdowns for different reasons. So this is not very new to all of you, but of course, this is of a different nature and magnitude. But before we speak in more details about the museum, Adila, during this crisis, can you just briefly contextualize to our listeners how the crisis unraveled in Ramallah? When did you close your door, and where is your staff now?
Thank you, Lyne, for having me. Hello, everybody. Yes, well, my staff are like me. We're all at home, except for our wonderful security staff who are obviously sleeping on the job, but in a good way to keep our building safe. So in terms of how the COVID unraveled here in Palestine, it first started massively in Bethlehem because of all the pilgrims and the tourists. And so the city was immediately put under lockdown and closure about a month ago now. Whereas in other cities, it's very minimal. But the Palestinian Authority, which runs some areas, decided to, do a lockdown. But to be brief, most of the cases have to do with people coming from abroad. There has been no community spread so far, but everything has been dealt with very efficiently so far. The only unknown, obviously, is the Palestinian workers who live in Israel and in the Israeli settlements and who come and go, and we don't know what they may be carrying, so measures have been taken to contain that issue as well.
So, Adila, when did you close the doors of the museum?
We closed very early. We closed 2 weeks ago to the public. Most of our staff were able to work remotely. The overwhelming majority were able to work remotely, but myself and some of my key colleagues were coming to work every day and continuing to work as usual. And actually, it's funny because last week I took a decision that that's it. Next week, we should all work from home just to be safe. And it turned out that the decision was made for us.
So tell us, Adila, what strategies have you put in place so that the museum continues to serve your community? And maybe you can give us some examples?
Yes, actually, I was thinking about something. The Palestinian Museum is a relatively new museum. We opened less than 4 years ago, and our vocation is to be a transnational museum. So much so that we have not one, not two, but 3 different websites for various programs. Our Facebook page is phenomenally active, and so is our Instagram page. We have 360 tours of our exhibitions. We have a virtual reality experience of one of our exhibitions. So it's like intellectually and even practically, the infrastructure is there. The digital, numerical outreach is there. It's something we think about a lot and integrate in our programs. But the issue now is mental. How do we as staff make the shift from thinking about the immediate physical activities that take place in the museum to start thinking also seriously about the digital outreach as a key part and not as a subsidiary part? So to answer what we're doing, actually, we used this last week when some of us were working to prepare for putting a lot of digital content and to plan for our new digital outreach, which is basically going to be tours of our latest exhibitions and also a lot of short videos, instructional videos of activities that people can do at home. And also basically making people aware of our very rich YouTube library, plus lots of games and activities and informational material on our social media. We're targeting families, adults, and anybody who wants to learn about Palestine.
Have you been able to get a flavor of what the response has been?
Yes, our social media traffic has increased, our subscriptions have increased. Our campaign, we chose to have 2 different hashtags. One in English, which is the same hashtag that all the museums in the world are using, which is hashtag Museum from Home. But we added our own, which is Palestine Perseveres. And in Arabic, we picked a nice hashtag called متحفك في بيتك, which is your museum in your home. Because as I said, we have all these instructional videos. And the framing, let's say, discourse is that this is not the first time that Palestinians, wherever they live, have been under lockdown or under siege. But we will go through this. In the first Intifada in the 80s, the schools and the universities were closed. And people developed something called popular education. And so in a way, what we are doing is doing this form of popular education, but online on our social media.
Thank you so much, Adila. Let's move to Lebanon. Saleh, you are in a country that is not only on lockdown and battling the coronavirus pandemic, but also since October 2019, the country finds itself in the midst of an unprecedented economic crisis that is affecting all aspects of life and which has also fueled popular uprising. So you're fighting on multiple fronts. However, maybe you can tell us a little on how the latest crisis, which is the corona crisis, has unraveled in Lebanon and at which point you had to close your galleries.
So thank you for inviting me. Lebanon was one of the first countries to feel the coronavirus epidemic because, in fact, there are a lot of Lebanese who go and come to Iran, part of the population. So since Iran was one of the big places where the epidemic, like an epicenter for coronavirus, it was very early towards the end of February that we started really feeling the complications of what is about to happen. Schools closed very early, universities, and with regard to the commerce, we were not really sure. I mean, we really wanted to keep open, but then it was obvious that was impossible because if people need to use public transportation, if they have to visit and interact, then that will help really the spreading of the coronavirus. And very early in March, the decision by the people, not by the government. I mean, and this is probably very special to Lebanon because the government is somehow a failed government for a long time. And so people have to really find solutions. And the confinement started by an initiative from the population. We took the decision to close and we've been closed for the whole of March now. And in the meantime, we started reflecting on what will happen eventually, because it seems like it's going to go for a longer time.
So how is this closure and the overall situation affecting you and your artists? I know, Saleh, you carry a lot of artists from Lebanon and the Middle East, and this must be affecting you and them. What online presence have you explored as a replacement to the fact of remaining opening?
Okay, I must say that since we had a kind of a revolution in October and there were all these manifestations in the streets, it was obvious that Lebanon was going through a tough time, and that probably not a lot of tourists or visitors will be able to come to Lebanon. So since October, we started projects of how we can really interact with the rest of the world in new ways, that not like people coming to us, but we going to them. And it was a bit lucky somehow, because we started developing our online presence and our online programs, which is not easy. We had to develop softwares in order to reach out to all our archives and database online. And that happened gradually. So now, in the past 2 weeks, we have been a little bit thinking and reflecting on how we are going to come back in April. Of course, there is the issue of we cannot just behave as if nothing is happening in the world. So also this has to be taken into account. And therefore, we are really meditating right now of how we can make the rest of the world access our archives and our artists and our artworks in an easy manner, through videos, through stories, and at the same time, without forgetting that the Middle East is a region of problems, and that we would like also the rest of the world to know about what is happening in the Middle East. So, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of challenges, especially that no government is helping. We have no funding. The country is nearly bankrupt. There is not there are capital controls over our money. But I think in these very special situations, this is how we end up being creative.
Correct. Thank you, Saleh. How do you think this crisis will affect the art market in the region? And what are, briefly, some strategies that you think can better support the sector or the market during this difficult time?
The truth, it's affecting the whole world, not only the Middle East. But I can focus on the Middle East. Already, Art Dubai has been cancelled. The Sharjah meetings have been cancelled. A lot of the regional events have been rescheduled. Most of our exhibitions have been postponed or rescheduled. So, of course, it will affect us. And of course, I guess with the melting down of the financial markets in the world, there will be less and less money for people to spend in the arts. And this is how I think we need today to start reflecting on our resistance and our continuation by developing alternative ways to provide for our artists. We are a gallery that has 30 years of existence, and in fact, we've been really nurturing our roster of artists and our roster of collectors, and we have seen with them the good times, and now it's a little bit the tougher times where everybody needs to consolidate and stick to one another in order to pass this year.
Absolutely.
But what I can say, I would like to say that everybody is becoming more humane. They are thinking more in solidarity, and all what we need really is to keep surviving. A lot of the extra things today, people are not really asking for them, just to resist and survive.
Thank you, Saleh. Khaled, I want to turn to you. You are the artist voice in this conversation, and your work and inspiration are rooted in the social inequalities within our societies, some of which were revealed by this pandemic and the manner in which it's unraveling. But before we dive further into this topic, you are in Berlin, so tell us briefly how the situation is at your end, and when did you have to suspend a lot of your projects and activities?
Thanks, Lynn, for the invitation to this broadcast, and hi to everyone. Well, in Germany, everything started around in January, I think, in Bavaria, in the south. I think in a car company, they discovered the first coronavirus case. And then a lot of travelers come from Italy, China, and Iran mainly. And this is how kind of things were spreading, according to the German authorities report. And people start slowly getting this general panic kind of attitude that spread around the world. Just the last, maybe you are following, I'm sure you are all following the news. The last beginning of this week, they make a new law that people shouldn't walk more than two people with a separate distance of 1-2 meters, which feels so weird. Now, if you go to the street, there's nothing open at all. Only few people passing by every now and then, and people really keeping maybe more than 2 meters distance. You feel people are even afraid of themselves and each other. At the same time, it has this kind of feelings of coming together, sharing the same time of catastrophe. That affected us, of course, big time. I'm working with two entities. One is my studio as an artist. Another one is Co-Culture, which is a nonprofit organization, and I have team working there. And the studio and the organization exist located in the same place, so we have to suspend all our activities just for our safety, for the safety of the team and the safety of everyone around us. So we were planning our public program actually, and the launching of the institution, the big launching of the institution, its project and our new space in Berlin in April or May. Now, definitely, anytime you talk to anyone about any future agreement, no one is guaranteeing anything. So everything is kind of suspended. We are working from home. We are trying our best to keep up with everything. Since we didn't launch ourselves online yet, so we are not present yet. At the same time, we have a project that you know about. It's called Syria Cultural Index. It's an online platform, aims to map, connect all the Syrian artists around the world, bring them together in an online platform. So I feel actually a little bit sad that it's not ready yet. It's not implemented. It's on its way, because now it's exactly the time where it's much needed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Khaled, for this overview of what you are living. And I know it might still be early for this kind of reflection, but is it possible for you to share with us, even if in the early stages, how this crisis might be shaping your thinking about your future work, or anything that is emerging from this crisis?
I think it's like as much as it's affecting everything. To be honest, I still can't believe that we live in this time. It feels like very surreal. I'm for sure. I'm sure. I feel like every day I wake up, I feel I'm dreaming, looking at people not talking to each other, isolated from each other, having a mask, and all us becoming digitized kind of creature. It feels weird. So it's still a little bit early for me to reflect on this, but that definitely, I think, encourage all of us artists, especially living in isolation, to rethink of our tools and instruments and method of production, to rethink of our projects and the necessity of what we are doing. And I really, really invite all the artists now. I mean, it has been proven once after another that what we were doing and just, kind of feeding into this capitalistic system with our production is really not the solution. If we want to use art and the creativity for social change, it's the time, and should be start now, like now, because we are all in the same boat. Either we're gonna survive together or not. So I really think and encourage all the artists, including myself, to rethink of our tools, our projects, our method of production, our cooperation as well. So it might take some time until this is kind of resulted in any kind of work. I'm trying to just now survive the situation, not only personally, but specifically because I have the team and the institution. So I have to think of this aspect as well, also from financial point of view, which is, by the way, Germany or Berlin Senate, they did a good job. They are offering financial support for all freelancers, I think around 5,000-6,000 for 6 months. And at the same time, even if you don't have enough money to pay your rent, your landlord is not allowed to kick you out, which gives a little bit of security for the artist, at least that they can survive, because the impact, specifically if you don't have any job, it's huge, right? So if as a freelancer, so hopefully all of this feelings will bring us to come together to rethink of what we have done for this world, and also to think of maybe what we can do together for this world.
Thank you, Khaled, and a message of solidarity from us to you and all the other Syrian artists who you might be in touch with through your programs and other Arab artists in Berlin. Closing questions to all of you around your takeaway from this crisis. Very briefly, 30 seconds each if you can. Adila, how might this crisis change the manner in which museums might be operating in the future?
Well, in terms of the Palestinian Museum, we're already in the future from the day one. We thought that our audience is global and our infrastructure is there, but we have to go along with it. Yes, it is obvious that we need to cooperate more with each other and to reach out to each other across the, across the internet, and to develop interesting programming. My question mark, and I don't have a takeaway, I'm still mulling this. One of the biggest pleasures deriving from working at the museum is seeing all of the tens and hundreds of children who come every day to attend the exhibitions, and for them being in the physical context of an exhibition is life-changing, especially when we deal with many unprivileged communities. Yes, thank you, Lyne. So the challenge, one of the main challenges for me and for us, is going to think of how to maintain that primary visceral connection to art and to exhibits for children, especially.
Thank you, Adila. Saleh, turning to you, how might you see something new emerging, perhaps, for the art market in the region? Might, this online presence grow the sector and increase the sales?
Actually, we cannot but go through that. I mean, there will be definitely more and more online presence. Now they are developing like these viewing rooms, like 3D online viewing. You can really visit virtually all the exhibitions, more videos. People will be more and more accustomed to really visiting the exhibitions remotely. But as Adila was saying, and that is a bit what I am meditating about, visiting the the physical place and putting yourself in front of the artwork physically is something that cannot be transmitted online. I guess we need, for sure, we are developing our online presence so that we can deal with the situation for the time being. But at the same time, we need not to forget that we don't want this to become the thing, but rather just a temporary situation. Hopefully, people coming back to the museum, coming back to the gallery, interacting with the artists, interacting with the artworks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Inshallah, as we say, in not too long. Khaled, you have the last word. How might this inspire work from artists and activists such as yourself to push for the need to explore new models that produce better functioning societies and perhaps more equal societies?
I think it's very, very important and crucial moment for the whole humankind to rethink of everything. One of it, of course, the role of us in the cultural sector, which also it's amazing now seeing all this material online for free. And I was wondering, I mean, it's a very legit question why this have been not ever existed if we can have this accessibility. And now it's proven more than ever that art is actually one of the most important elements of and needed in this time to save literally the world, where people sitting at home looking at painting or watching film or reading a book, that proves exactly that how much art is needed. It gives us hope, it gives us calmness, it gives us this feelings of coming together and feeling something together. Hopefully, inshallah, something will go good out, or we'll get something good out of this.
Thank you. Thank you for our guests, Adila Laidi-Hania, Saleh Barakat, and Khaled Barakeh for being with us today. Please follow us on Twitter at MEI Arts Culture.
This has been a presentation of the Middle East Institute. To support MEI's programs and podcasts, please donate at www.mei.edu. Thank you for your support.